Okay, this is going to be video number 2. This is going to be the first half of the games and activities. I'll try to go through in more detail in case you have any questions or concerns. So again, the very first page of every chapter is a discovery template, theoretically completed on a Monday. I'm going to go in here and grab a pen so I can show you how the kids will fill it out. And of course, you're going to put these inside a communicator or sheet protector, use a marker so you don't actually consume the paper. But first, the kids would look at the circle, and you would say there's one circle with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dots. That's why we wrote one circle, 5 here. One group of 5 is, and then the kids would write 5 right there. Now, the key is that when they get to the second one, what we want them to do is kind of write, we already know that one group is 5, so we're going to put 5 right on top of this circle, and we're going to say, now we got 2 groups of 5. So we got 5 from the first one, and then 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's 2 groups of 5 make a total of 10. When you get to the third one, you're going to say, well, we already know one group is 5 and 2 groups are 10. So now that we have 3 groups, what we're going to do is go 5, 10, and then count 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and so on. The idea is that by the time you get down to the 10th one, we don't want the kids to have to count all 50 dots. We want them to say, well, this is 5, this is 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, and then they would count the last 5, and then they would write the fact. 10 times 5 equals 50. Okay, and then I guess theoretically they would erase at that point and go on to the back side, which is this one. This is just to show the patterns in numbers. So of course it's 5, 10, and then the missing number is 15. Then the next one is 20. 25 is already there, so then you put in the 30. And the idea is they're just going to fill out that across. Below each circle is the fact that gives you that. So below the 5 is 1 times 5, and you write 5. Below 10 is 2 times 5, and you write 10, and so on. In here, I tried to put them so kids would notice there are some relationships. So you got 2 times 5, 10. And below that, 4 times, which is double 2 times, is 4 times 5, 20. And then double that is, because it goes 2, 4, 8, they're doubling, so then our answers are also doubling. Same thing over here. These answers are related, and then these two, 5 times 5, 25, and 10 times 5, 50, they're related. Down the bottom is just the opposite of the top. So basically 50, 45, and then in this circle you would write in 40, hopefully neater than that, and then put the facts going across there. That would be theoretically on Monday, and I'm thinking on Monday, if you hustled well enough to get through that, you might actually get to the Snakester. Remember, Snakester works that you go through the times table. It says it up in the directions. You got to snake from the top to the bottom. You can go up and down and sideways. You cannot go diagonally. You got to go from 5 up to 50, which is the 10th multiple, and then all the way back down. And I think this one goes 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, and that would not be the root. So, okay. Theoretically, they should have gone, and they shouldn't have gone there. They should have gone down to 40, 45, 50, 45, 40, 35, 30, 25, 20, 15, 10, 5. And I think I played at enough people's rooms. That's the idea. I like to make it into kind of a race, but you don't have to do it that way. They could just complete it. But either way, if you did those 2 things on Monday, then you could decide whether you wanted to do your first OOP sheet on Monday or wait off until Tuesday. But here's an OOP sheet. It's basically what I would do is go around the room with just the 5 facts and ask each kid one fact, like say to the first kid, Joey, 6 times 5, and then he would have to say 30. I would give him about 1,001, 1,002 silently in my head, and if he didn't get it that quick, then he would have to complete an OOP sheet. Now, what is an OOP sheet? Well, basically, it's 10 different ways to write the fact. Okay, I'm going to cheat and go to the next slide where one is done. This kid got 6 times 8, 48 wrong. So basically, out of the 100 stars over here, you got to color the outside so you get rid of everything except for 6 rows of 8, which are 48. Up here, you want to take 6 of the circles and put 8 in each one. In this one, excuse me, you want to have 6 rows of 8. In here, you want to write it in words. Over here, you want to write the traditional fact. Over here, and you can see, this is in words written out. These are in bubble letters. The tricky ones are down here. The reason there's stars outside here is because basically I use stars to form a 6, to form an X, to form an 8, to form an equals, and to form a 48. Same thing over here. The reason there's a number sign out here is because Here I've used the numbers, a bunch of little sixes to form a 6, and a bunch of X's to form an X, and a bunch of 8s to form an 8. And that's the idea. This would force the kids to practice it 10 times. This would be done at home, and the key is that you have to sell this at the beginning. It's not a punishment. I don't want it to be a punishment. In my brother's classroom, if a kid laughs at someone who has to do an OOP sheet, they have to complete the OOP sheet for the kid who actually made the mistake. So it's just something, obviously, if they get it wrong, they need to practice, and then if you want, you can hang them in your room somewhere or not. That would be Monday. Every day for me would end with an oops challenge. I would go around the room real quick and see if anybody made mistakes. It's a good gauge to see if they're learning their facts. Now, the rest of the week, you could start each day with a game. Again, this is the Matchster game. You go from the problem, 4 times 5, down to 20. 7 times 5 goes to 35, and 6 times 5 goes to 30. As I've mentioned many times, I do not have problems where it goes from the very top to the very bottom, because then it turns into a spaghetti mess. Basically, if you walk around the room and check, if it looks like spaghetti, the kids made a mistake, because they should be grouped in like these 3 go together, these 2 go together, this one. It's usually in groups of 2 or 3. Next game, try to do one more game. Factster works like this. 2 students play, student A and student B, and the way it works is, try to do this lightly. So let's say student A colors the 10. They would come over here and write 10 times 5 is 50. Now the key is they only get to select one of the 50s. There are many. Here's one, here's one, here's one, there's one, there's one. There's like 5, 6, 7, 8 50s. They can only pick one. If they're smart, they'll pick the one right next to the free space, because now they have 2 in a row. The problem is, let's pretend that I erase this. Player 2 grabs the eraser, gets rid of it. Player 2, let's see if I can do that a little better, grabs an eraser, and they get rid of the one that the other player did. Player 2 grabs a pen, and what player 2 does is picks, if they're smart, they're going to pick 4, and they're going to do 4 times 5, and they're going to make 20. And then what's going to happen is they're the O's, they're going to block player 1. So player 1 had 2 in a row, but now player 2 blocked it. And the idea is they just keep erasing, pick a fact, write the fact over here, and then mark it on the board until they get 4 in a row. The only 2 things kids can do wrong are when you get your fact over here, you can only pick one of the number, you don't get them all. And the other mistake that kids could make is sometimes kids want to put an X on the free space or an O. You never do that. Free space is a free space. It can be used by either player, so it never gets an X or an O. But the winner is the first person to get 4 in a row. I'm going to stop here, the end of part 1 of the games, and then I'll finish in the other video with part 2.